Right, what day is it? Saturday, the 4th of January. I am off to start a new adventure. When I say start a new adventure, I don't mean move house and, you know, change your life up. I mean put a K series in an EK. That is what we're off to do today. It's dark because it's early January. It does that, doesn't it? It's going to be fun. So we're heading off there now. The goal for today is to pull the D series and the subframe out of the EK. We're ready to get that bad boy out. So I believe first things first for us, we have to disconnect the battery and then drop out all the fluids before we can start taking anything apart. Are you going to get it everywhere?
Probably.
Oh dear. Oh, well that was quite successful actually, yes, well done. We're going to try and drain the gearbox at the same time, and then we're also going to take off all of this plastic so we can then get to the radiator because there's a drain bolt. But if all of this is coming out, including the subframe as well, then it's going to be easier for us to take all these plastics off and drop them out the way as well. Hello, camera.
I'd like it to go the least everywhere.
Yes. The least everywhere as possible. Yeah. Right, but fair. So got the same going on this time as we did when we were building the engine. So we're putting everything in labelled bags, even if we don't necessarily use them again for when the K goes in, we still know in case we do need them where they come from when we took them out. So we're now dropping the exhaust off. I've split it from the back of the manifold. Brad's just dropping the back box out because the back box loops up and over the like the rear control arm, so we wouldn't be able to get all of this off if the back box was still on. So we're going to split that off just down there, and then we should be able to drop all of this out, which then frees up the engine a little bit more. So I've just managed to rip the centre console out, which is now there, but we had to get up here to drop the shifter out. So there's a hole up there where the gear shifter used to sit through, and then these linkages are what we're trying to take off. This one unbolted, but the one that actually goes into the gearbox has got a little roll pin that we've got to try and hopefully tap out. So that little roll pin is what we were just fighting, which sits through that hole and then drops into the gearbox. So we've worked through the engine bay now. We've got the wiring loom taken out of the firewall, so that's all now unplugged out the ECU. All the radiator and everything's out, and from what we can see, everything is about ready on the top side to drop out. So we've now got to go underneath and start to take apart all the suspension, and then all we're waiting on is a 32mm socket to be dropped off for the drive shaft nuts, so we can take them out. But for now, I think all we need to be doing is taking all the suspension apart. So we've managed to pull off both hubs. We ended up doing it that we pulled them out with the drive shaft. So we disconnected it from the top arm, and then disconnected the bottom arm as well as the steering arm, and then took the drive shafts out. The hubs are going to get reused but we at the minute don't have a 32mm nut or 32mm socket to undo the drive shaft nut. So we ended up taking them all off together, both sides, and then we should be nearly ready, possibly, to drop the engine and subframe. So the plan of action now is we're going to see if we can drop the subframe and the engine all out in one go. So we've got the axle stands supporting the engine mount, and then a couple more axle stands supporting the subframe, and then the same the other side as well. And then what we're going to try and do is unbolt the engine mountings on the bottom and then on the top, and then effectively lift the shell off the engine. I think, is that the plan? Mm-hmm. Ooh! So we can now drop all the bolts off the top engine mount. So 2 on that side that we're doing, and we've also taken one off. We've taken one off here and one off the other side. So we can then, with a bit of luck, unbolt them from underneath, lift the car up, and the engine should, fingers crossed, stay sat there. As a side note as well, because we're taking the subframe out at the same time as the engine, we've also had to come under the footwell and undo that little 10mm bolt just there, because that then separates the steering rack from the steering column. I have been advised as well that when you do it, to make sure that you have a way of holding the steering wheel in the right place, whether you use steering lock or some way of making sure it's held in the same place, because then when you put the new steering rack in, you can then make sure obviously everything's lined up properly, as well as you don't want the steering wheel turning round and round, because apparently if you then connect the new steering rack up, there's a chance that you could damage the clock spring and that could break, which obviously you don't want to happen. So the steering lock is on, and then underneath there we've got the UJ that we are ready to disconnect from the steering rack. It's out. We've now got a very big hole up here. So now have to figure out how on earth we're getting this lump out, and also where we're going to put it. So we're a little bit further down the line now, and what you would have seen previously is obviously we've got the D-Series out, and we've now managed to store that just over there next to the wall. What I've just been doing is going round the engine bay basically and just wiping over with a rag just to clean everything up, all along the rear firewall, under the chassis legs, where the new mounts etc. are. And yeah, got all of it rubbed down. It's all looking nice and fresh. We did also manage to get a few more bits done to the K-Series this morning. So we've got the power steering pump on, and we also got the RPC light and clutch and flywheel on there as well. We were hoping to get the gearbox on and mocked up, but unfortunately the clutch release bearing broke this morning, so the little tab you can see just there snapped off. So I've ordered another one of them. That should be here in a couple of days, which isn't a problem. But I'm basically now working around the car, just doing some little bits here and there that I needed to be doing until that clutch release bearing shows up. When that shows up, we'll then be able to get the K-Series dropped into the car, and then we'll be able to start plumbing everything else up, bolting the subframe up and all that sort of thing as well. But yeah, until then, I'm just trying to find little bits to work through that I can crack on with. And yeah, giving it a good go really. So let's crack on. So that is now all sorted and done. The Acuity shifter is mounted up, and I've sat in the car Obviously nothing's linked up yet, but it feels really, really nice. The positioning is next to perfect. It's nice and close to the steering wheel, so you know everything's within reach and it's going to be really good. Engine bay is all lovely and clean. It's actually come up nice and fresh. I was just looking into where to route the wires or the shifter cables for the K-series. Now, I was originally thinking of trying to use one of these grommets that are in the firewall to see if that would help us, but from what I've found, a lot of people, where the subframe mount is down here, they'll end up putting a hole in it somewhere about here. That then should, theoretically, if you put, I think it's a 44 or 45mm hole, you should be able to feed the cables through, and they go straight through into the centre console, which would be brilliant, and then it should also miss a subframe mount, so that's something that we're going to have to try on a later date. But I believe that is about going to wrap it up for what I've got done today. I don't actually know what we're going to be doing next time around. It's going to be a case of finding stuff to do and seeing what time we've got on our hands. But yeah, that is about it for what I'm going to be doing today. So hopefully it was a little bit interesting for you guys to see how the engine comes out and all of that sort of thing. And yeah, with a bit of luck, next time I'm on your screen, we'll be putting, fingers crossed, we'll be dropping the K-series into the car and starting to get everything plumbed up. But yeah, for now, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.